Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Cowboys Fan versus the World podcast. It's your host with the most, Chris. I know. It's been crazy. I haven't been posting in a while. I haven't really been on social media either. It's been a real big, a distant time since the last time I've been on camera for the podcast. If you're listening in on Spotify, Amazon Music, or Apple Podcasts, I'm on all of them. It's been a while. It's been a long time. I know I did a return video with the Cult of Personality song. If you guys get where that's from, you get it. Thank you for that one. So it has been a lot. So to kind of give you guys a little bit of a life update outside of the podcast and kind of give you a little bit of a reason why I haven't been so active on this platform and on this channel in a long time is, I believe it's been about over a month now. So if you haven't seen the last episode or you guys haven't, you don't know, so right now I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher and a coach, full-time. That's essentially what pays the bills. That's what gets everything done. That's kind of what gets me an opportunity, to try to build the podcast more or, kind of come up with some extra funds so that way the podcast can be better, get some good stuff like that. And just, if you're a teacher out there or a coach that listens into the podcast or whatever, if you ever want to go to that realm, it takes a lot of time out of your day. It really does. I've learned that pretty evidently this season, which sucks because this is like the craziest NFL season that's happened in such a long time, at least in my recent memory. And that's what kind of sucks is that, it's a full-time job. If any of you, like I said, teacher, coach, it's basically two jobs in one, especially teaching and coaching. But I think the last time I talked to y'all, I was still in football season. I'm now in basketball season with my middle schoolers, and it's been going great. Loving the kids every day, seeing their growth. They're putting in the hard work, every week to improve every single week. We're able to pull off a double overtime win against a pretty good team over here. So it's been a crazy ride and definitely a big learning experience, at least from my end, coaching and kind of going through that realm of seeing things from a coaching perspective, kind of growing from that part, and like I said, just enjoying, the job at hand, enjoying my boys and seeing their growth and improvement throughout the season. Definitely a lot of them, like to make my hair gray, and a lot of them like to get on my nerves, but hey, I signed up for it and I'm liking coaching every single day. Teaching's pretty tough in my opinion. So if any of you've never taught before, it's pretty tough. It's pretty tough. Just really depends on, kind of who you're around and kind of, your teaching style. I'm starting to learn, my teaching style, how I kind of connect with some kids. So definitely a big learning experience, but that's basically the reason why I haven't been so active on this channel and I haven't been able to produce content for you guys. I know a lot of people have actually been asking me. A lot of people have been missing the podcast, which I've missed it too. Don't get me wrong. Do not think that, I'm going to take months off and we're good. I was actually supposed to do a Thanksgiving podcast episode before the Thanksgiving game, but I didn't get a chance to just because at that time I was with my family. And, kind of being with them, I don't really see them that often. So I wasn't able to hop on for an episode there, and then we came back into school. But now we're about to go to Christmas break, and shout out to any one of you, college, or if you're even in school right now, you're a teacher, you can tell, you can attest to me, need a break. Definitely need it right now. But now I'll have more time to focus on the podcast for the next couple weeks. Maybe start growing a routine of, posting more consistently. That's ultimately my goal, especially since we're getting closer to the playoff time in the NFL. So very excited for that. So couple more things before we get into this podcast. I know we got a lot to talk about. So much has happened since last time I've been on an episode or live here. So first up, happy holidays to everybody. Happy holidays to you. I'm already feeling festive. Got the Christmas tree in the back. I already got a couple Christmas gifts ready to go for family and friends. Got a couple of cool things to shout out to all those family members and friends that got, giving out gifts. It's the happiest time of the year right now. Not really for me after this past Sunday, but happy holidays to all of you out there. I hope you guys have a great holiday coming up. I believe Christmas is coming up this next coming week. Christmas Eve games. You got the Christmas game, Christmas Eve, Boxing Day. Y'all know it. Y'all know the holiday season. I hope y'all are getting through it pretty well. Hope you guys are just, flourishing your life right now. But without further ado, let's get into the podcast. So the last time since we spoke, Cowboys went on a pretty good run. Now they're 10-4 after losing to the Buffalo Bills, and that game deserves one of these. And I get it. No, I can't defend how poorly we played this past Sunday against the Buffalo Bills. I had a lot of high hope against the Bills. I really did. 7-6, they struggled a lot. And, I mean, Josh Allen has struggled this season. I believe now he is tied for first in the NFL with turnovers, which, when is he never not leading the league in turnovers? Like, let's just be honest here. When is he never not leading it? I believe last year he was like second. After, including playoffs, he ended up being first overall in the NFL for turnovers, and years prior, he's always led the league in turnovers. But the thing that made me mad the most is that not even Josh Allen, because let's be honest, Josh Allen didn't play a game. He didn't play the perfect game. He just didn't. The person that killed us the most was James Cook. We could not stop the running game to save our lives. We just couldn't. And what was frustrating me is that we went out and drafted with our first-round pick, Mozzie Smith, and his whole purpose was to do that, to stop the run, because we saw how weak we were against the run defense last season. That was the only thing that was the killer, because we had a top defense last year. I think we were number one, but we couldn't stop the run. And that was the frustrating part that I saw on Sunday, was that we weren't stopping the run. James Cook had a career day at the expense of the Dallas Cowboys defense, who's number 3 overall in the NFL. Now, what made me more mad about that is not even just that, and it was just the offense couldn't get anything going. And I don't really use the weather thing as an excuse, just because everyone has to play in it. You know, Buffalo has to play in the weather too. The rain and the wind, whatever. You can argue that they're more used to it because they play in an outdoor field. You can always make that argument. But in my opinion, it's just that you have to be able to plan for maybe the run coming in a lot. And the crazy thing about the Buffalo Bills was that they don't run the ball a lot. And if they do, it usually goes through Josh Allen. Mainly Josh Allen runs the ball. They hardly, I believe with the last offensive coordinator, they rarely gave it to the running back. And now they switched it up in the middle of the season. And now they're starting to run the ball a little bit more. And James Cook feasted on us. And that was just such a bad sign for the Dallas Cowboys. And, you know, just as a Dallas Cowboys fan, you know, hyping up this defense to be borderline, you know, unscorable, or at least they can hold their ground or hold their own. They can make the big plays, you know, when they can. And it's just that every playmaker on that team just didn't look like any of them playmakers, not even Micah, you know, because the Bills came up with a good offensive scheme to run the ball away from Micah, keep Micah away from the ball as much as they can to basically get him out of the equation, essentially. So that's what frustrated me more with that whole situation going on with the Buffalo Bills the other night. And now if we move over to the offense, what frustrated me in that one was that we just couldn't move the ball. You know, I don't think the Buffalo Bills defense is nearly as good as the Dallas Cowboys one. So the fact that they were able to get sacks, they were able to shut down Dak Prescott and that high offense, it was just that, I don't know, it was just like something was missing or something was gone. Like, this was not the team that went against Philly and took it to Philly, took it to all these other teams. We looked like the 49ers Cowboys that just lost Trayvon Diggs, and we lose to the Cardinals, and then we lose to pretty bad to San Francisco. And we can't have too many of those. We just can't. I think Dak that night was like barely over 100 yards, 1 interception, which was in garbage time anyways. And Tony Pollard was a non-factor. I believe the only touchdown that we really had was CeeDee Lamb, who ran like an end around or something like that. And you could just see it like on CeeDee Lamb's face and just everyone that they're just so frustrated with the game and how it's turning out. And it was just so invigorating to me that like how that whole game unfolded. Like, there's no way we should ever be playing that bad. There's no way that our defense should be even allowing that many points on top of Dallas's offense not being able to move. Now, I can understand if the Bills' plan was to, you know, run down the clock as much as they can to not allow Dallas to get the ball. But it was just the two high safeties, you know, that took away the deep threat, that took away the vertical from CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks. It just looked like now we didn't know what to do. Now we look like what we looked like against the 49ers, trying to dink and dunk, and then, defenses sniff it out, and now we can't move the ball anymore. We can't run it because Tony Pollard wasn't moving, and then Zach Martin got hurt. It was just overall a disaster for the Dallas Cowboys this past Sunday, and it was just frustrating to watch, in my opinion. And as a Cowboys fan, it just frustrated me, and it gave me a little worry. Here's why. Not because of the offense. I think we can always go back and refix things. The worry I have for the Dallas Cowboys right now is stopping the run. Because look at the teams we're going to have to go up against in the playoffs. If for some reason we get the wild card, we got to go up against the 49ers, who have Christian McCaffrey, and we all saw what happened there last time we went to Levi Stadium. Then you look at, if we have to get the Seahawks again, they have Kenneth Walker, who had a big game last night, which we're going to talk about, the Eagles game and the Kenneth Walker drive with Drew Lock. We'll talk about that later. And then you think about other teams we have to go up against, like Detroit, who has Jahmyr Gibbs, who is flourishing right now. The Buccaneers, not so much, but the Eagles, if they ever decide to run the ball with DeAndre Swift, they can do some damage. And some of these teams can do damage. I think maybe a couple of them may not, but who we're going to see down the road in the playoffs is my biggest concern, because we have to keep in mind we're going up against teams that can run the ball pretty good. Let's keep that in mind. Let's start with the 49ers. Christian McCaffrey, he's looking like he may win MVP pretty soon because he's having a great season, which, in my opinion, not Brock Purdy. We'll get to that later. Now, he's doing great. That 49ers offense moves with Christian McCaffrey. He's been a big help. That's probably the best investment they've ever made this past couple years. Then let's move on to Philadelphia, which we would have to go, if we go to the wild card, have to go to Philadelphia if we have to see them. And we got to go up against them in their territory with DeAndre Swift. If they just run the ball more with DeAndre Swift, they probably would be getting farther. But I don't know. With how weak we looked against the Bills, that would be my biggest concern. And then you go to the Detroit Lions, who Jahmyr Gibbs is having a great season, a great rookie season, mind you. And that's even more concerning. If C.J. Stroud wasn't having such a great year, maybe Jahmyr Gibbs might win Rookie of the Year for offense. But C.J. Stroud's doing amazing right now. So when you look at all those teams, and then you look at who we're going to face in the playoffs, it's not a good look. It's not a good sign. It really freaks me out, because we need to be able to stop the run. That's going to be our biggest component to try to shut down if we see the 49ers in the NFC Championship, or if we have to see them in the divisional, or if we have to see Philadelphia again, or Detroit again, because more than likely we're going to see one of those three teams again. We may have to play Philly 3 times in a year. We may have to play the 49ers for a second time, or we may have to play the Lions for a second time. Now, even if, for some reason we play the Bucs or the Saints, which we'll talk about the Buccaneers and my man Baker Mayfield, we got to go up against a running game. And if teams learn that they can just run the ball all willy-nilly all over that defense, we are going to be in such a big problem, because if we can't stop it, we can't stop it. And then on top of that, a lot of these teams we're going up against in the playoffs are teams that can also throw, who have superstars like A.J. Brown or Deebo Samuel, Justin Jefferson if Minnesota gets there, Amon-Ra St. Brown with Detroit, and all those teams, Mike Evans, another one. And there's those teams that we're going to see in the playoffs that can also throw on top of run. It's going to be bad news bears for the Dallas Cowboys, especially why do you run the ball? To throw it, because once you run, they bring a blitz, play action, bada bing, bada boom, it's a touchdown. Now, I think Dan Quinn will go back into the lab and reevaluate what he needs to do. Maybe Jonathan Hankins comes back from injury. Maybe Mozzie Smith needs a little bit more time before he starts going out there. But hopefully the Dallas Cowboys defense can hopefully get it figured out. I think offense is just, everyone deserves to have a bad day. Everyone does. That's why I'm kind of upset about the whole dropping MVP thing with Dak. So now let's look at these situations here. If somehow we fix everything, then we could get to the NFC Championship. If we can shut down the runs again, I think we'll be fine. We'll probably have to face San Francisco at some point in time, so we will have to see what goes on with there. But all I have to say is, as long as we can fix the run game, fixing the run defense, I think we'll still be fine. But we have a tough challenge ahead of us with the Miami Dolphins, so we'll see what happens there and kind of just go about it from that direction. So, sticking with the Dallas Cowboys, let's talk about Dak Prescott here. and his MVP chase. Do I still think he may be able to win the MVP? Yes, I do. I do think Dak Prescott still can win MVP. I know these games are going to be critical. They're going to be very, very critical, and the loss against Buffalo is not a good sign. But here's my thing. If you look at the other teams that we went up against, it's not as or the other people that are up for MVP, they're all still not having a great season. Like, here's my problem. So here are the MVPs in my opinion. Here's who I think are in the lead right now for MVP. Right now, I still think it's tied between Dak Prescott and Tyreek Hill. I think they're both right there. And then it's going to be Lamar. Then it's going to be Patrick. And maybe, not even Jalen. Christian McCaffrey, no, my bad. It'd be Tyreek and Dak tied. Lamar, Christian McCaffrey, and Patrick Mahomes, which you may switch McCaffrey and Lamar Jackson. So here's why I think Dak can still somehow find a way to win the MVP. He still has 3 games left, and he still has a chance to win the division from the Philadelphia Eagles. He still has a chance to rebound and go get them into the playoffs, or at least get out of a wild card game, or not even get out of a wild card game. But he doesn't have to play on the road the whole playoff series. So if he can somehow manage that and take it to the next 3 games, which is Miami, Detroit, and the Commanders, which either way we'll see what happens if he plays against the Commanders, you still can't take away from the great season that he had. He has great numbers. I believe he's second in a lot of things. I believe he was first in completion percentage, and he was first in passing touchdowns for a while. You can't take those away from him and from the great season he's had, but especially a great rebound season from last year where he was turning the ball over like a maniac, and now this season he's rarely turned the ball over, which I said was a fluke. I did say that in the beginning of the year. I said that I think last season was a fluke because he doesn't average that many turnovers, and this year he's proven so. And then he has all the great numbers, all the great wins that he's had, and I think only 3 or 4 games he's had bad games. When you look at the other teams the other players, the only one that really can have an argument to win is Tyreek Hill. Here's why. Tyreek Hill is on pace to beat Megatron's record of the most receiving yards ever in a season. On track. Obviously, he missed last week's game, but he can still win it. He can win it if he breaks that record, in my opinion. If he breaks it, there's like no question about it. He should win the MVP. But I mean, it's a quarterback's game. It's a quarterback's award either way. So even if he did break it and broke probably the receiving touchdown record, maybe he still wouldn't get it. But I think he should get it if he does break the record. Then you look at Christian. I like Christian McCaffrey more. Christian McCaffrey in front of Lamar Jackson. Let's put Christian McCaffrey there. He's a difference maker on that 49ers team. You take away him in the run game, it's not even the best. Here's why I don't put Brock Purdy, though. I don't put Brock Purdy in because the 3 games that he didn't do well, Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams were not there. Dak, on the other hand, on his other bad games, his whole team was there. You know, he rarely had anybody injured, but you can tell without Deebo, Brock Purdy was not able to function. Without Trent Williams there, he was not able to function. Without Trent Williams there, Christian McCaffrey was still doing good, but that offense wasn't able to move with Brock Purdy without Deebo or without Trent. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's one of them. It may be McCaffrey or Deebo, but I believe it's more McCaffrey because I think McCaffrey really opens up the offense because you have to not only worry about Deebo Samuel, you have to worry about Christian McCaffrey. And I remember a couple years ago when Deebo was playing running back and wide receiver, and they had that freaking killer combo of that receiver running back. But I mean, you shut down Deebo Samuel, you give him enough tackles, what is he gonna do? Absolutely nothing because he's tired, he's hurt. So having Christian McCaffrey there has just opened up that offense. He's a great running back. On top of that, he can play wide out pretty well thanks to his dad, Ed McCaffrey. So you put all those elements together, you're going to have a pretty good team. So I think that out of both of them, I think McCaffrey should be ahead. Now if he won those 3 games without Deebo and without Trent, I think Brock Purdy would probably be running away with it right now. But that's what I think is that I think McCaffrey is the main guy, especially since the crazy year he's having right now. So I believe Christian McCaffrey is in the lead right now for the 49ers team. Then let's look at Lamar Jackson. He's doing pretty good. He usually does pretty decently. And then I want to throw in maybe Patrick Mahomes just because he's trying to get it done with nobody catching the ball and they're still finding a way to win games. Reason why I don't put Jalen Hurts there because I do not reward quarterbacks who turn the ball over so much. Why would we give the MVP to a quarterback who's turned the ball over 17 times, almost as much as Josh Allen. And that was my other problem when some people put Josh Allen in the MVP conversation, because he's still turning the ball over. He's 7-6. And also for Jalen Hurts, his only reason why he was in the MVP race is because they were winning games. But I don't reward bad turnovers. I don't. And the difference between them and Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes is still trying to get it done with these receivers not really helping him. I mean, we all saw what happened to Kadarius Toney. Freaking dropped the ball, interception. Just, everyone's double covering Travis Kelce. It's just been going crazy for the Kansas City Chiefs. And now maybe the Tyreek Hill is starting to affect them. We'll get to that a little bit more later. So keep going here with Dak Prescott, with the great year he's having and all the numbers he's putting up. I mean, you can't deny he's up there in the MVP conversation. He has to be. Now, whether you think it's because, everyone else is not having a great year is up to you, but I believe he should still be up there. I mean, everyone's allowed to have a bad game as long as if he can rebound and replicate what he's been doing all season. I believe that he should still be able to be up there in that conversation with Tyreek Hill and Christian McCaffrey to win the MVP. Alrighty, so moving on to the next order of business. We're looking at around the NFL this past week. Crazy week. First off, we got to talk about my man, the newest addition also to the Cowboys Fan versus the World podcast setup. My man, Baker Mayfield, because he's feeling dangerous every single day. He felt dangerous against the Green Bay Packers, 34-20. Woo! I was telling everybody. And cherry on top of it all, he's leading the division in the NFC South. And I'm so excited about that because I don't know if you all remember, some of you may remember if you watched the episode, I made a bet with a buddy of mine, and right now he's been talking mad trash to me because the Buccaneers season has not been the greatest, and he's making fun of me, saying you're going to look good in that New York Yankees hat. For those of you who don't know, I am a Boston Red Sox fan, and so here's my bet with my buddy. I bet my buddy that Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers will win the division and make the playoffs, which basically they're going to win the division. Now, could I have doubled down to do the wild card? I said no. To make playoffs, I said no, and here's why. Because I think there would have been too many good teams that were going to be in the wild card this year. So, kind of the teams I expected to be in the wild card, which was either going to be Cowboys or the Eagles. It was probably going to be the Vikings and maybe one more team. I was thinking it was going to be the Packers. Or not the Packers, the Bears. Bears, which we're having a weird season too. But I had a feeling the Buccaneers were going to win this season, even with Baker Mayfield coming in brand new with all the weapons that they have. And guess who's leading the division? Mr. Field Dangerous himself. I got the Baker Mayfield Funko Pop right here. It is him with Cleveland. It's the only one that I found. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Amazon Music, Baker Mayfield podcast when he was with Cleveland. I also have an OU jersey of Baker Mayfield. I've actually been wanting a Baker Mayfield Buccaneers jersey. Still trying to get my hands on that. If y'all got any connections, you can hit me up. Send it on over. But I'll probably wait for a podcast episode if they win the division. Maybe I will. So now let's keep going here. So he won his game with a big explanation point. 341 yards of passing offense, 4 touchdowns, and 158 QBR passer rating, or QBR rating, which is perfect. And I believe there hasn't been a quarterback that has thrown a perfect QBR in Lambeau Field ever. I believe he's the first quarterback to ever do it, or he's done it in such a long time. I've been telling y'all been sleeping on my man Baker and those Buccaneers. Now, has it looked pretty? Absolutely not. No, it has not. I believe the biggest weakness right now for the Buccaneers is, I think, the offensive line. I think the offensive line is not up to where it was last year or the year before with Brady. I believe that the defense is not where I thought it was when I started debating with Baker Mayfield winning the division, because I believe they have a better defense. I believe they have the best defense in the NFC South. Now it's a little suspect, and the offensive line has not been doing great, because a lot of the things I've been seeing with the Buccaneers is not even the fact that they're losing. It's the matter of, they're not blocking. He's getting sacked a lot, and on top of all that, Like, sorry about that. And on top of all that, like, they're just not moving the ball sometimes because Baker Mayfield can't throw. He can't throw the ball. But here's the thing, though. You start looking at his stats, they're not bad. With a bad line that has not been blocking very well as in years past, he's still not doing bad overall. Like, I'm pulling up his stats right now. So, if you look at his stats for this past season, he's completed 63.5% of his passes. He's passed for 3,000 over 3,000 yards. He has 24 touchdowns to only 8 interceptions with a 94 rating, which has been his best season thus far. I believe the closest one that's been pretty good was 2020, the year he went to the playoffs and almost beat Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead, mind you. And now he's replicating it with a Buccaneers team with a subpar defense and a subpar offensive line, a running game that's it's really non-existent. Rachaad White, he has his moments. There are games he looks really great, and then there's games where he looks like he doesn't know what he's doing out there, and I feel they should have just gone and get a running back. But I've said it in the beginning. They have enough weapons and enough tools to make sure that they can make the playoffs. They have more than enough wide receiver help in Mike Evans, one of the greatest to ever do it, future Hall of Famer, Super Bowl champion, Chris Godwin, another great wide receiver, Super Bowl champion, tight end kind of, and they can get it done. They can get it done. I think just the offensive line needs to get better and the defense needs to get a little bit better, and bada bing, bada boom, they're freaking running away with the South. Now, you look at the rest of their team, the rest of their games though, I believe this upcoming week they have the Jaguars, which is really 50-50. They can either play the Jaguars, who haven't been playing that great. Their offense is kind of you can move on their defense, or you're going to get the Jaguars, who have the next an up-and-coming Peyton Manning in Trevor Lawrence. You just never know. They're kind of inconsistent. There are flashes where they look like they're going to go deep into the playoffs, and then there's other times where maybe the Texans should be in the lead right now. So that's really my biggest thing with them, and I believe after they're done, after this week, they get I believe it's the Saints. Yeah, they get the Saints, and then they get the Carolina Panthers to end the season. So, if anything, they need to win this week, and I believe the Saints play, let me find it real quick. The Saints play they play the Rams. Okay, so right now, first and second in the division right now is the Buccaneers and the Saints right now are both tied for their division right now. Like they're both right there for the NFC South. Now, the Buccaneers are up right now because they have, I believe they've only lost one game in the conference. So that's why they're ahead of the Saints. I think they're about like a game and a half ahead of the Saints. So even if they finish out the same record, as long as the Buccaneers keep that, little ahead of those division opponents, they should be good. But the Saints have the Rams coming up, and the Rams haven't been looking that bad, to be honest. They're starting to move the ball. Matthew Stafford's starting to get comfortable with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua being there. So, I mean, the Saints got their work cut out for them. They haven't looked great this year either. And then Atlanta, Arthur Smith's getting fired. Like, let's just be honest here. Arthur Smith's probably going to get fired. Speaking of firing, we're going to talk about the Chargers here in a second. So, we'll have to see what happens with the Saints, because I believe the Saints have the Rams, and then they play the Buccaneers, and then I believe they play the Falcons, which, I mean, either way, I think the Falcons, who do they have next? They have the Colts, which is 50-50 right now, because Gardner Minshew is looking great. So, we'll have to see and keep an eye on the rest of the NFC South, but, woo, my man Baker feeling dangerous, and this is why I've said in the beginning, do I think that the NFC South right now is the strongest conference? No. But this is exactly where I believe Baker Mayfield needed to go, was a conference that really they have nothing to lose. They just lost Tom Brady to retirement. The division's going to be weak anyways. It's up for grabs for anybody. And it has been. The Saints were in the lead, the Falcons were in the lead, and then the Buccaneers got in the lead. So it's real up in the air right now. But this was a division that's winnable for Baker Mayfield, not being there for a longer period of time. And having these great stats, it may earn him a contract, because I remember a lot of people thinking, all right, how long will Baker Mayfield last before they start tanking and they just go with Kyle Trask? They cut Baker Mayfield, or they don't re-sign him. They just go get Caleb Williams or Bo Nix or whoever's coming in, whoever they want to come in. So, but now they're doing decent. Baker Mayfield hasn't turned the ball over nearly as much as other quarterbacks in the NFL. They may win the division. So they just start building people around him, give him a little 2-year, 3-year contract that can give him a little nice pay, thank you for your service, and then give some money to Mike Evans, and then go rebuild everything else from there. I think it's not a bad idea. I really don't think so, because now they see that Baker Mayfield can work in their offense, because he just threw for over 300 yards and over 3 touchdowns in a game. And there were other games where he threw for 3 touchdowns where they should have won the game. I can't remember the game off the top of my head where that happened, but I remember there was a game where he threw 3 touchdowns and the defense let him down. There were a couple times where they should have won more games, but their tight ends dropped the ball. So this is going to be very crucial for Baker Mayfield in his career right now. If he can somehow find a way to win, get his team into the playoffs, win the division. If he wins his division his first year there, then I don't see why there's a reason to replace the quarterback. Other than, maybe you don't like the guy, which over there everyone loves Baker. He loves it in Tampa. So I would say if he can win you all the division, or maybe even sneak you into the playoffs, why try to reinvent the wheel when you can just keep him, veteran quarterback, find a way to pay Mike Evans, and then bring in some guys to help out on offense and defense. I think that's the way the Buccaneers should go, and I believe that's maybe the direction they may take going in. Because they'll probably end up saving money re-signing Baker to a kind of a small contract than trying to go get a rookie in the first round and have to reteach him the ropes, and not even a guarantee the top QBs in the draft this year are going to be there when the Buccaneers arrive, especially since they're kind of doing all right. They may be a mid-teen first round draft pick, depending on where they go. Maybe high teens, depending how the rest of these 3 games go. So who knows? But I don't think they should go on with the quarterback. I think Baker Mayfield fits fine in Tampa Bay. That culture, everybody loves his energy. They're excited. To me, this looks like that old school, excited Baker Mayfield from OU who would get hyped up, score touchdowns, he'd run full speed, go celebrate with his guys. That's the kind of guy you want. It's the kind of guy I would want, especially coming in, trying to help this team out. And, they may go to the division. Just saying. They may win it. And, I didn't tell you my part. So my buddy Tito and Tito betted, this is the buddy, so he betted that I would have to wear a Yankees hat if the Buccaneers don't win the division. Now, if I win and Baker wins the division, he has to wear my OU Buccaneers jersey to his college, because he's in college right now. He has to wear it to school. And I'm going to laugh so hard when he has to wear it. I already got it ready for him. I said I'll make it smell good. I'll iron it out for him. I'll make sure it looks nice and pretty for my buddy out there, just so he'll look good in that OU red. Alright, so moving on around the NFL. Big news out of this one. Chargers fans, rejoice! Rejoice! Ding dong, Brandon Stanley is gone. He's gone. Chargers fans have been waiting 2 years for this. He's finally been fired after losing, 63 to 10 or something like that? Wow, that was horrible. Which I was mad. I was really mad about that because I had Austin Eckler for fantasy and he didn't do anything for me in that game. And I picked him up in DraftKings because, not to gamble, I do like a free one with my family just for fun. And he got me nothing. And I drafted him because I saw he was playing the Raiders. I thought he would have a good game. And they get blown out 63 to freaking 10. Oh, that was so frustrating. But on top of all that, it was coming. We all knew he was going to get fired eventually. This was a long time doing. This is a little overdue in my opinion. But Brandon Stanley has been fired. And I think just the way he kind of presented himself, because the defense wasn't doing great. They hired Kellen Moore, and things aren't working out with Kellen Moore. That offense really wasn't improving as much. But now it begs the question, was it Kellen Moore or was it Dak Prescott? We'll have to figure that out after the season. So, with the Chargers losing Brandon Staley, I'm not sure. I don't think they've reported who's going to be the interim head coach. It may be Kellen Moore just because he's the offensive coordinator. But sticking to Brandon here, the way he kind of carried himself was really the biggest problem, I think, for the Chargers. And kind of the biggest problem for him was really just how he carried himself. He was like, I'm not changing the defense. I don't care if, whatever. Real Arthur Smith type. Sticking to his guns and letting his pride be his downfall. And that's what I thought was kind of the funniest thing, was that he let his pride be the problem. Because once his pride came in, he was saying, I'm calling the defense. I don't care what anyone says. I'm calling it. And your defense is not performing, even though they got Khalil Mack, Derwin James. They went and got Adoree Jackson, I believe, for free safety. And they have some goons. They have goons on that defense, but they're not stopping anybody. Like, they're just not. And that's been the case for the last 2-3 years, is that they have Justin Herbert there trying to, get that offense to move. They have great offensive weapons. They have, on paper, a pretty decent defense, but they're not moving the ball. They're not stopping the ball. And that's all Brandon Staley, because he's a defensive-minded coach. If you're a defensive-minded coach, in my opinion, and your defense can't stop anybody, there's a big problem. You need to be defensive coordinator, is what that means. You need to be defensive coordinator, not the head coach. So, with all that being said, I mean, like I said, I kind of expected this to happen. I didn't think it was going to be right now. I mean, might as well. If you're the Chargers, I mean, Justin Herbert got hurt, so he's probably not coming back. You don't want to risk any more injury with him. I mean, the defense still has not improved in the past couple years. They're not stopping anybody. They're not dominant. I don't even think they're a top 15 defense. I mean, he's the head coach. He's the defensive guy, and he's not getting the job done. So what do you have to do? I just thought they would fire him at the end of the season just to, let's finish it out. Let's just ride out the storm, and then, shoo, you're out. They fired him. I think because that 63-10 loss, or 14, whatever that was, that big loss was just the straw that broke the camel's back, because what do you explain? There's nothing you could do to, even come close to explaining that. Even the Giants defense and the Jets that gave up 40 points to the Cowboys, I mean, the defensive coordinator, I mean, what can you explain, Now, I think that's a little bit of a different situation probably because the Dallas Cowboys offense was just so explosive. And then you look at the Raiders, who are on, their third quarterback this season because Garoppolo's been hurt. Aiden O'Connell got hurt, which I think they had to go with another guy. Josh Jacobs wasn't having a good year. They lost Darren Waller, and somehow they scored 63 points. 63? That is... It's almost as crazy as the Miami game. Almost as crazy. But it's just, to me, it's so dumbfounded that defensive-minded head coach allowed 63 points with a Raiders team who hasn't been good this year. Or not that they haven't been good, but it's just that, I mean, they're not doing as well, as everyone thought they might. They haven't been good for the past 2 years, and they have another interim head coach right now, because I believe Josh McDaniels got fired, too. So it's been a wild roller coaster for the Raiders, and somehow they still dropped 63 points on a defensive-minded head coach. Yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer that you got fired, buddy. So who knows what's the next step for the LA Chargers? What's going to be the next step for Brandon Staley? Hopefully, good luck to him in his future endeavors. I'm sure that's what the Chargers told him. So we'll have to see what's the next step for the Chargers. As of this recording, or at least that I haven't seen, they have not reported who's going to be the interim head coach coming up. They may report it in the next couple days, so keep your eyes on that. It may be Kellen Moore. Maybe he'll have a little bit more say in what he wants to run the offense. Maybe things will change, but maybe not because of Justin Herbert not being there. Keenan Allen's been listed questionable for a little bit, so we'll have to wait and see what ends up happening with them. Alrighty, so next up, we are heading on over to our NFC East rivals, the Philadelphia Eagles. First, they're on a 3-game losing streak. Let's talk about the game last night. Drew Lock, thank you for being Mizzou Drew Lock, not Denver Drew Lock. Mizzou coming in clutch with the rookie Jackson Smith and Jigba to win the game against Philadelphia. Oh my God, it was so after the Cowboys game lost, that was the other thing I was frustrated, was that now we have to rely on a team to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. It was reported that Jalen Hurts was sick, he may not play, and then on game day he said he's ready to go, he's going to go, please expect to start, he's sick, whatever. So here was my thing. So in the game, I mean, they just didn't run the ball. With a sick quarterback who's turning the ball over a lot, you would think that they would possibly run the ball. With DeAndre Swift, who they traded for, you would think that they would give him the ball instead of making a sick quarterback try to throw it. And then on top of that, their defensive coordinator that they changed all the way this late in the year with Matt Patricia. Matt, number 2 pencil Patricia. Haven't heard that name in a while. came in and still nothing changed. And they made all these additions to the defense. They went out and got Kevin Byard from the Tennessee Titans. They got Shaquille Leonard from the Colts, who got cut. Still nothing. They still were not able to stop people. And it's been, that was just a crazy game from what I've heard. I wasn't able to watch it because I had a basketball game that night, so I really didn't catch it. I just saw the highlights, and I saw that catch and that last second drive. Kenneth Walker from Seattle. Oh my God, he had such a good game. Drew Lock, he's learning under Geno Smith. That's exactly what you want from a quarterback that's been learning under Geno Smith in Seattle. It's a perfect person to learn from right now. Is Geno, because he's doing such a good job. Pete Carroll, amazing coach, hands down, just an amazing coach. Turning around Drew Lock, he's coming in and taking over, which is great. He just beat one of the top teams in the NFC. But let's move on to the Eagles. Ha! Eagles! That's funny. And this is the thing I've thought about for a while now. For the Eagles, the rent is due. Here's what I mean. So, if you look at the rest of the season like I have, I predicted it in the beginning of the year that the Eagles were not going to be as dominant as they were last year. They lost 7 starters on that defensive side. They lost both their coordinators. They had to bring in new guys. And I said they were going to struggle. And as the season was going, I was thinking, maybe I was crazy, maybe not. Then I saw the Jets game and they lose to the Jets. And I started laughing and thinking, okay, here's the downfall of the Philadelphia Eagles. And then they started winning. But here's what I noticed about their wins. Some of their games, most of their games actually, they were barely getting by. And that was the main reason why Jalen Hurts was in the MVP conversation, was because they were still winning games. Even though he was turning the ball over, they were finding a way to win. And even though I think it was maybe some sort of ref luck that the opposite team got a foul, a flag, or whatever, and it pushed them back, and then they had another chance to get them, or Kansas City, when Valdez-Scantling drops a perfect pass from Patrick Mahomes to lose the game, and, the Dallas Cowboys game, which they should have lost, but 2 flags go against the Cowboys, pushes them back out of range, and they have to do a long throw that was short by 2 yards, even though Dak Prescott outplayed Jalen Hurts, who was an MVP candidate last year and a Super Bowl contender this last year, and he still outplayed him, and then Dak Prescott outplayed him again. They've lost 3 games in a row. And this is what I mean by the due is up for the Philadelphia Eagles. For this entire season, everyone had this notion of the Eagles are back, they're unstoppable. No, I didn't believe that at all. Looking at those games, and they were barely getting by, the time was coming, and I was waiting. I was patiently waiting, like my man Stephen A. Smith said. Just wait. Bad things will happen. You just have to wait. And I waited patiently. And then they get their butts kicked by the 49ers, then us, and then they lose to Seattle, who is not that strong this year as they were last year. And they lose 3 games in a row. Now they have the Giants, Cardinals, and the Giants again. Now, this is what I mean by the due is cut. Now the due is here, and now they're barely able to perform. Because everything's starting to catch up to Philadelphia. That crazy offense that they had past year, now it's not there anymore. Except for that stupid tush-push play that no one can stop. But people are catching up. People are figuring out how Jalen Hurts works. They're forcing him to turn the ball over. They're refusing to run the ball, which is fine because then guess what? All you have to do is stop Jalen Hurts. Even though he's athletic, super athletic, mind you, he is still, struggling with this year, trying to pass the ball. Even though he has weapons like Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown and DeAndre and whoever else he has. Dallas Goedert just came back, and he's still struggling. And on top of that, the defense that lost 7 starters on that side of the ball is trying to figure out what they're trying to do. They had to change coordinators. They went out and got 2 guys, and they traded for Kevin Byard, and they signed Leonard up from the Colts, who just got cut, and they still can't stop anybody on defense. This is what I mean by the due time is here. Now you got to pay the piper because you were so content on skating by. Nick Sirianni is acting like a fool. Talking about where you at, Chiefs fans? Where are you at? Now you're not talking. Now he's not talking. Now where's his deal? Now his overrated team is being exposed for, in my opinion, the overratedness that they are. Because they were not winning games dominantly like they were last year. They just weren't. They were winning games, yes, but if those calls didn't get played by Dallas would have won that game. If Patrick Mahomes' receivers would catch the ball, that's another loss. They should have lost to, I believe it was the Patriots. They should have lost to the Patriots. There's a lot of teams they should have lost to, and they didn't. And that is what's been the killer, and that's what made me mad, is that there's no way they're still skating by this season, and everyone still thinks that they're the dominant big bad Eagles, because they're not. You can't say that they're the big bad Eagles if their defense is not even performing at the level that they were last year. Jalen Hurts has more than, I believe, triple or close to triple his turnover ratio this season with fumbles and interceptions. I believe he doubled the numbers in interceptions this past year, and you're telling me that they're dominant. Because they're not. There's only been like two teams that they blown out, which I think was Miami and the Buccaneers. Every other game that they've had has been close. And then they played actual good teams like the 49ers, who has a proven offense that can run pretty easily and heavily effectively, and they freaking got killed. They had a defense that actually is a good defense to go up against, and their offense couldn't move. Then they go to Dallas and play in Dallas's turf. Could not stop Dak Prescott. They couldn't stop CeeDee Lamb. Couldn't stop Brandon Cooks. They could not get past that defense. So you tell me. And then this past week, they lost to a backup quarterback in Drew Lock in the last second. And now is it time to worry for the Philadelphia Eagles? It might be. I mean, they're on a downward spiral right now. And right now, yes, they do control their destiny in the NFC East. If they win out, they win the division. But if Dallas is catching up. They're staying one win. As long as they can stay a half a game ahead of the Eagles, we're going to be fine. Really, the Cowboys need to win out, and then the Eagles have to lose a game to basically go to the wild card. The Eagles have a spot in the playoffs no matter what. Either they're going to win the division or they're going to go to the wild card. Either way, it's not looking good for them. This is a downward trend that I've been waiting for. I mean, it's true. Like, the amount of times I've heard from Philadelphia fans that they're gonna win the division, which I said the Cowboys are. Now, is it a rough way to win the division? Yes, I believe so, but it's also because Philadelphia should have lost more games than they've won. They've given that false persona of we're still a dominant team like we were last year, when in reality, they're really not. You don't lose 7 starters on your defense and then lose your offensive coordinator and say you're still dominant, because that's not true. You're not. And that's been evident throughout the season, is they haven't been dominant. They're finding ways to win, sure, but there's also times where they just lucked out that things went their way. And now things aren't going their way this late in the season, and it may cost them the division. So we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen with the Philadelphia Eagles and where they go from there. But alrighty, guys, last thing before we wrap up this episode of my return, got some NFL games for Christmas. Very excited for that. I hope you guys are going to have a great holiday this year. So, first up, on Thursday, the Saints and the Rams. Who do I got? This is going to be Chris Voss's picks for Week 16. So, Saints and the Rams. I'm going to go with the Rams. I think the Rams are coming back, and they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine against the Saints. Saints haven't been strong this year. Bengals and Steelers. I don't know. Can't sleep on Jake Browning. Can't sleep on him. The Steelers haven't been doing great. Mason Rudolph makes his return to the starting lineup. I'm still going to go with the Bengals. I think the Bengals still have a lot of talent. T. Higgins has been balling out with Jake. All right, Bills and the Chargers. I'm going to take the Bills just because, I mean, the Chargers are basically in a downwards plank right now. Who knows who's going to be the interim head coach as this recording. All right, Commanders and the Jets. You know what? I'll give it to my man Jeff. I think the Jets can win this one because the Commanders have not been looking great this leg of the season, so who knows what's going to happen with them. But, I mean, if Zach Wilson could pull off another great performance or something like that, I think the Jets could probably win that one. Lions and the Vikings, Christmas Eve. This is the Christmas Eve games, by the way. The Bills game was Saturday. That was Christmas Eve. Commanders game was the 24th, who I have the Jets winning. The Lions and the Vikings, I'm going to go with the Lions. I think they're a pretty safe pick just because the Dobbs magic is roaring off. Basically, Browns and the Texans. Ooh, the battle of the backups. Ooh, I think that one's going to be the game to watch, I think, in my opinion. It's going to be a pretty good game. I don't know. Joe Flacco magic. I may have to go with the Browns on this one. Joe Flacco came off the couch and is just killing it over there. All right, Packers and the Panthers. I think the Packers are going to come right back, get a bounce-back win. Seahawks and the Titans. The Titans have been all over the place. I think the Seahawks are going to win that one. Falcons and the Colts. Ooh. That's going to be a good one. But, hey, Minshew Mania. Minshew Mania has gone wild in Indianapolis. I'm going to go with the Colts. Buccaneers and the Jaguars. I love my guy Baker. I like him a lot, but something tells me those Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence is trying to win that division, so I wouldn't sleep on him either. So I'm going to go with the Jags on that one. Cowboys and the Dolphins in Miami Christmas Eve. I'm going to go with my Cowboys just because I think we're going to fix it. I think Dan Quinn will find a way to shut down Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane. And I don't know if Tyreek Hill's going to play or not. He may, but I mean, just double cover him and hope for the best. That's basically all you can do. Then all we have to do is shut down Jalen Waddle. So I think we have enough to maybe shut down the Dolphins, but it's really going to come down to maybe offense, whose offense can perform, and I think Dak's going to have a bounce back game. I think the Cowboys, because they need it so bad, they're going to get the win. Cardinals and Bears. I think maybe the Bears. All right, yeah, I'll give it to the Bears because I think that Justin Fields is just basically trying to play at this point to not lose his starting job. So I think the Bears got this one. Broncos and the Patriots. Let's go with the Broncos. I mean, Bill Belichick's out the door this season, basically. So let's go with the Broncos. Raiders and the Chiefs. I'm going to go, I don't know. The Raiders got a 63-point win. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to go with the Chiefs. This is Christmas Day, so the Chiefs are going to win that one just because the Chiefs need it. They need to stay ahead in their division as well. Giants and the Eagles. I think in Philadelphia, the Giants won't win, so I think I'll have the Eagles winning that one. But I don't know. Come back to me when they go to New York. That may be a whole nother question. Alrighty, Ravens and the 49ers on Christmas Day. I'm going to have the 49ers. I don't think the Ravens really have that much of an answer for that defense. I think the Ravens defense was going to struggle against basically the offense of the 49ers. So either way, I think the 49ers are going to win that one to run away with it, probably to clinch, honestly, the number one spot. They may clinch it this week, or they may maybe get closer. So, but alrighty, that's going to wrap things up on this episode of the Cowboys Fan versus the World podcast. Make sure you guys follow me on all of my social media. I have Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. I'm on YouTube at Cowboys Fan versus the World podcast. I'm even on Threads. Make sure you check this episode out on Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. It's a great time to return, especially this close of a race for the playoffs. I'm excited to see who's going to make it, and we'll just have to see what happens right after Christmas. I hope all of y'all have a fantastic holiday and a fantastic Christmas. But until next time, I'll see y'all later.